The government is tasked, according to the framers, with providing things for which the market would not be suited, like mutual defense, infrastructure, equality under the law. The desire to go beyond that is to invite mischief. It stems more likely from impure motives, like the undue influence of private actors through corruption. The private actors may want to get rich from contracts for government make work that they introduce, or they may just have some strange agenda that they want to fulfill to impose on the public, on humanity. So they go to politicians who are promised enrichment by some means or gain, possibly hidden or less trackable, like favors, or straightforward, like campaign support, since in America, Citizens United has turned corporations into people and money into speech, legalizing corruption, usurping the public trust from the electorate. It creates a two-tiered society. It's like we're all fish, but from two groups living in different tanks, an upper tank and a lower tank, like a main tank and a refugium below, each subject to different rules and conditions, but sharing water between them through a sump pump. To the extent that money is considered political speech, the denizens of the upper tank make the rules for both. On paper, the rules apply to all, but to the extent that money can mitigate the consequences of violation, they effectively don't apply to the upper tank. They're not as disruptive. They have a way to escape consequence. And frankly, they might not even have to use resources, because the government enforcement mechanisms are kind of like predators. Like, humans go for the path of least resistance. We're like water, but we're also like predators in that we weigh risk. And so law enforcement tends to go after the easier marks. Like, for those of us who have finite resources, to be caught up in some violation of the law, we wouldn't be able to fight. We have to take a plea deal, right? So you have these legislators making laws that prohibit all these victimless crimes, and so it's possible for a person to get caught up in some rule violation that has no victim associated with it, but it ruins their life. Like what we see with the arbitrary rules applied to that which is protected by the Second Amendment. So you buy something legally, and then later some agency rules by fiat that it's prohibited, and then they decide to come after you. Like, they knock on your door and start pressuring you and threatening. Or let's say you conducted a transaction without the exact right paperwork, and then as a result, a no-knock warrant is procured, and they kick down your door in the middle of the night and kill you as you try to defend yourself from some unknown intruder, like they did to that airport director with the Slavic name. The point is, the people in the upper fish tank, the ones who make the rules, they're not worried about public safety. Like, the rules that they make are not to protect the public from criminals. It's to protect themselves from the public. See, they have resources to put up barriers and have private safety, not public safety. Like, they don't rely on it. Safety is a private good for them. The rest of us can get fucked. They don't care which fish get into the lower tank or even how dangerous they are to each other. There's no mind for that, only what's good for them. Like, they don't care if the piranhas get mixed with the tetras as long as none of them can bother them. They just want to make sure that nobody in the lower tank can get to them. The thing that gets me, though, is that anybody in the lower tank points to anybody in the upper tank as being anything but loyal to the upper tank. Like, if you lack private security, you're definitely in the lower tank, subject to the level of personal safety deemed adequate by those who make the rules from the upper tank. Those who make the rules but are not subject to the resultant conditions. If you were in the lower tank, nobody in the upper tank is really your advocate. Maybe one or two, but not whole groups. So that's why it's silly to me when I see people pointing the finger at specific politicians. Like, they're all bad. Like, when we lose the regime that's in place now, the one that comes in after is going to be just as bad. Just as bad. they're almost, they're all beholden to the system, and they're not going to act against it for fear of being thrust into the lower tank. The upper tank hopes that through technology, even the sump pump that forces us to share water will no longer be needed. It is appropriate to criticize everyone in the upper tank, not just subsets. To root for subsets of actors doing battle against each other in the upper tank is to fall for the performance, the theater. Even if they genuinely despise each other up there, they're all beholden to the same masters. They're all on the take from the same interests. There may be some stuff going on for which you voted, like here and there, little scraps, but the stuff for which people around the world will hate you, you probably didn't vote for that. So yeah, all this technology that's being used to supposedly fight crime is not going to increase your personal safety, although it could theoretically be used for that. It won't. It'll be used to enforce a set of arbitrary rules on the public, the violation of which create no victims, but lead to the destruction of life circumstances or incarceration for the violators. And the rules will be geared towards preserving the safety of those in the upper tank. The rest of us, again, can get fucked. We can live in a cardboard box in a favela for all they care. That's how it is. You've got to opt out of everything that makes you controllable. If you've become as powerless as livestock, you're going to get slaughtered. History shows a thread of interaction between the rulers and the ruled, and the concessions made by the former are almost always a product of their perception of the latter's ability to compromise their safety. We must be aware that the power differential created by technology doesn't allow them to do to us what has been typical through human history, which is to be ground under heel, serfs at best, possibly slaves, or at worst livestock. Do not comply with a digital currency. You can see how they throw these seemingly arbitrary conditions into legislation that betray their desire to protect themselves from us and not from each other in actuality. Like, for example, this throwing of a kill switch into all cars made after a certain year to treat us all as if we have been convicted of DUI, or this legislation, I think, at the state level currently that mandates that all hardware must be able to identify the user, to like ascertain their identity and age. That's part of a pretext for a digital ID, which we'll use to control you, to control your mind, your opinions, like they're doing in Europe, where people are being put in prison for wrongthink. Like they can cut off your money at any time if you don't do what they want, exactly what they say. They can cut you off from everything if you don't do what they say. Human beings are always corrupt in the aggregate, and so we can safely treat any attempt to control as a proxy for an attempt to exploit. They seem not corrupt, like they seem to not want to do you harm when they don't have power over you, but it absolutely changes once they have power over you. And to not see that is a hallmark of just being dim. Don't participate. See the skinny end of the wedge and anticipate the fat end. Don't even let it start.